Welcome to the All Ambient podcast, where we dig into the creative process, hear untold stories, and explore the brilliant minds behind some of the finest ambient music out there. I'm your host, Mike Graff. I'm excited to be in this together with you. Let's get going. Welcome again to the All Ambient podcast. My name is Mike Graff. I make music as Dear Gravity. In today's music news episode, Kirk, Marshall, and myself were joined by Andy Robinson of Rafa. Andy is a great guy. I was really glad to have him in the conversation with us. We talked about a particular fraud case in the streaming world that involved someone generating a massive amount of AI songs and then uploading them as tons of different monikers to the platforms and then using bot farms to generate hundreds and hundreds of thousands of streams per day. The ramifications of this and some of the implications for where this might lean the streaming and licensing world in the future were pretty interesting. So you're not going to want to miss it. Let's get right into today's music news episode. We are here with another episode of music news on the All Ambient podcast. I'm really, really glad to be here with Marshall Usinger, Kirk Smith, and Andy Robinson of Rafa joining us from the other side of the pond. Andy, really, really glad to have you here, man.
Yeah, great to be with you guys. Good to hang out.
Seriously, just a total joy. A little peek behind the curtain. We did actually also record a roundtable with Andy as well. I think by way of release calendar, I think this may come out first, which is kind of fun, and then we'll be rolling out the roundtable at a later date. But Andy, seriously, just a joy to have you here. And the joke was made on the roundtable, but I'll make it just a tiny little bit again, is that the fact that our resident Brit, Ben Tatlow, by way of Hong Kong now, but certainly, grew up in the UK, having Ben not be available, but then replaced by yet another lovely British accent in you, it just makes all the sense in the world, man. It's like it was truly meant to be. So really glad for that.
Well, we have to keep that balance, don't we? It's good to be with you.
Yeah, how to keep it classy.
I'm a big Formula One fan, and I've caught like a couple races where I've listened to some other commentating that was not like the ones from Five Sport or Sky Sports or what in the UK, like the sort of the official folks who do the commentating for Formula One, and like somebody from the USA or somebody from wherever else. And man, it truly does not feel the same if you don't have the guys from the UK commentating in F1. So maybe that's just the same with the roundtable. We just need that British, not reducing you to a single characteristic, Andy, but man, we're grateful for that one and grateful for all the other ones that you bring. So glad you're here.
Thank you. Really good to be here.
Love it. Okay, so a little bit of news going on. Maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't, but I just wanted to present it to you. I don't really even know where the conversation's going to go, but I found this to be quite interesting in the world that we are all in with streaming and licensing. And of course, it seems to continue to find its way into a lot of our conversations, but the dawn of artificial intelligence beginning to play around in the world of media creation and all that. So with all that to say, here we go. I'm going to read this. In a landmark case, Michael Smith, a North Carolina, USA musician, has been charged with orchestrating a $10 million streaming scam. The fraud involved the use of AI to generate hundreds of thousands of fake songs. Smith manipulated streaming platforms like Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music by using bots to inflate his streams and collect unlawful royalties. Smith initially uploaded a large catalog of music, but when he realized the need to increase content volume, he turned to AI-generated tracks. By creating songs with random titles and artist names, Smith was able to evade detection from streaming platforms' anti-fraud algorithms. His strategy involved using bots to repeatedly stream his AI-generated music. I'm just kind of skipping down a little bit here. According to the indictment, Smith generated about 660,000 streams per day, which resulted in monthly royalties right around $100,000 US. Not like toppling the entire music industry, but I mean, $100,000 a month. Like, I don't think there's anyone who would sniff at $100,000 a month. That's That's something. Let's see. Smith did not act alone. This is where it gets a little interesting. Prosecutors revealed that he worked with the CEO of an AI music company and another music promoter. These collaborators helped Smith produce massive volumes of AI-generated songs with fake artists and track names, such as, and there's a couple listed out. This network of fraudulent content flourished for years. So this has been going on probably like 6 or 7 years now. And then the person who wrote this, I think kind of the op-ed part of it, this case serves as a wake-up call for the music industry. Platforms must enhance fraud detection systems, and there needs to be a stronger focus on regulating AI-generated content. While AI has immense potential to innovate music creation, it also opens doors for exploitation. Striking a balance between innovation and ethical practices will be crucial for maintaining fairness and protecting artistic integrity. The music industry, artists, and platforms must work together to develop systems that protect creators from AI-driven fraud, ensuring that legitimate royalties reach the rightful hands. So, okay, there it is. From that, clearly, I don't think any of us in this roundtable were blind to the fact that this sort of thing is happening. Like, that's not really a surprise that there was AI music that was being generated, being put up on the platforms, and then there's the use of bot farms and, just all that stuff to catalyze the amount of streams that you get. But the interesting thing that I see poking up from this is kind of and it was sort of the op-ed piece at the end, is the acknowledging of, is there going to be this reckoning in a sense in the music world where there's almost a label of sorts that is going to go on content that is generated by AI versus content that was generated by like a real human, real artist. Because it's one thing, and I know a lot of us do licensing music, don't get me wrong. A lot of us do, create music that is then used and licensed in a lot of projects, which is awesome. It might be one thing for a licensing project, where you were to just generate, if somebody wanted to just, generate something up for that. But when and Marshall, you had just mentioned this in the roundtable that we were talking about, when I'm just like kicking back and I want to like put on, some music and relax to it, I can almost guarantee you that there's not going to be an AI generated album out there that is going to be at like the top of my list. Or like, man, I can't wait to put that on and just sit back and listen to it. So, the question for me, and I need to just shut my mouth because I've been talking for a bit, but the question for me, it really is around that idea of, are we going to need to start identifying if a song is AI or if it's not? And I think the interesting thing is that like, I'm a little more curious on the legal side of things, if they are just zeroing in on the bot farm side of it, that then turns it into an illegal operation. Because in all fairness, and I am not promoting this idea, but in all fairness, like someone could technically generate thousands or tens of thousands of songs and publish them under whatever name and whatever title on whatever platform and just send it off to the races, right? Like, I don't think that as of right now is anything that has any like illegal practicality to it. So I'm assuming it has more to do with the bot farming side of it. But the wake up call to that is that, like, is there going to be sort of this hand in hand where when they see, from a particular account or a particular IP address, that all of a sudden there's a ton of music being uploaded from there. And then there's, certain metrics as far as how many streams that they all of a sudden burst up that is going to cause some sort of like audit system or something like that. I'm curious what this might do. Maybe this is going to ensure a little bit more humanness across music streaming stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to chuck that out in the middle there, and curious what hit you guys and your responses to all the fun stuff.
Yeah. I love that happened. I mean, just the,
right?
I'm like, well, do it. I think I love it from what I'm understanding of what you're, and I haven't heard that story as of yet. So There's a lot there that it feels like as we go, we'll have to be sorted and unpacked a bit more as far as what people can do and are allowed to do. Because I don't know, just from me reading that, right, it's kind of like, well, right, was the slap on the wrist kind of because it was all just AI stuff, or was it because of just the mass amounts of it? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Because technically, if artists can use those tools to inform, some original music, that yes, I feel like it's a good shout that maybe there will be some kind of little asterisk or something that maybe even if you're making your original music and you're using elements that weren't completely, created by you, maybe there's a little disclaimer kind of thing or something like that. But that gives me a little bit, I think just my initial reaction is I feel a little bit of, okay, like maybe people do kind of care more about this not getting out of hand than, you know, us getting so caught up in our heads about, because we don't really, it's so unknown and yeah, it's so unfamiliar and don't know which way it's going to go. But yeah, that makes me feel, somewhat hopeful that there's a little, just like holding the reins in a little bit there and not wanting it to just be like a free for all of people just producing thousands of songs kind of thing.
Yeah. It sounds like the penalty came from the bots, the promotion of the material, as opposed to the prolificness of the amount of material that was made.
Sure.
But it seems like, and whoever's the angriest people are the people who are paying the $100,000 a month, which I'm assuming at the end of the day comes from advertisers and, you know, the streaming platforms budget, their bottom line. But it's like they're going to be hemorrhaging money from these fake streams. And so I think the fake streams is kind of the thing that's the trigger. Because in the sense, it's like, okay, well, you can make as much as you want, have as many different artists as you want and put it out, but you're kind of just adding to the noise because no one's really listening and it's just so much stuff. So then you're like, whoa, okay, well, how do I fix that? Well, enter the bot. And so the bot is what makes the content worth making. Otherwise, you're just filling up servers on the internet. You know, it's like, it's not producing streams. And if you could do something where you're actually generating content that's good enough to actually get into these places and be heard by people, and they're like, oh, this is like, I like this. This is good. Then you're kind of in this like AI curation business, which is not much different than a lot of labels where they're just kind of like listening to submissions and they're like, oh, this sounds good. This would fit here. Oh, this sounds good. This would fit here. Now, to do that with 660,000 songs, that's beyond the scope of like, you know, how many A&R guys does it take to listen to 100,000 songs? You know, now you're leaving the realm of curation and like taste and judgment and finding actual things for people that are made, you know? And so it's like, that's where if you can crack down on the bots, I think you stop the whole thing because it's just not going to make money. And so people will stop doing it because it's not making money. And, you know, the people who are making music because they love making music will just keep doing it. And then there will actually be money around for them because it's not being farmed out to the bots.
Sure.
So I mean, that was the kind of the one thing I was thinking of was like, you know, the making of it is not necessarily wrong if you can do it in a tasteful way that is whatever, but it's the bots. And so that's where the accounts come in to where you're making all these different accounts and you have to have all these different artist names because like it happens to us, I feel like, to where we get a song on a playlist that is kind of botted and we had nothing to do with it, but the song got there. And then all of a sudden, you know, we wake up one morning and we've lost 5,000 streams and it's like, oh, what, how did that, what, why? Like, and they're like, oh, because those were on a bad platform. And then even the danger of people getting thrown off the internet because they're botting, even though it wasn't them. So it's like, clearly they're watching. You know, so the fact that this guy got under the radar with those numbers is amazing when like regular people are like getting thrown off the internet because their song was on a bad playlist. So
or even like bigger people, you know, they're, I forget, you know, some of the different names, you know, and not necessarily like the major label protected artists and such that can kind of sift that out. But even like the next tier below that, you know, those who would consider themselves to, you know, keep an international presence and be able to, you know, show up in just about any city and have at least, you know, 1,000, 1,500 people show up, like, you know, having that tier of artistry. Yeah. Someone had their entire catalog just completely yanked because of something very similar to that. And it's like, whoa. And it was, you know, it was all none of their own doing. It was flagged for some of the same reasons that you said, Kirk. But yeah.
So how it's like what my question is how many artist monikers did this guy create? And how many different like subscriptions to DistroKid did this guy set up? You know, like like does he have 10,000 email addresses that he created and had, you know, 5 artists for each one? So he's
you need a bot farm just to create the DistroKid account.
Exactly. Like he's probably paying like $7,000 to $70,000 per year just on DistroKid unlimited uploads. You know,
of course.
So you know they're making money.
Serious organization going there. It's almost it's an impressive enterprise. I mean, to come up with that level of.
I mean, he earned that. He earned that 10 million just on an administrative level.
I'm almost impressed.
And like registering all the songs, I still have like 2 EPs that I haven't registered. And I'm like, dang, I need to get on that. This guy's got 660,000 tracks registered.
That's crazy.
What's
the more that you say that out loud, it just makes me to have.
He's got a work ethic. It's just not in making music. It's in doing all the other things.
But what I found interesting about that story was the fact he wasn't working alone. So you think, how far would he have got had he not had the insider, the CEO, helping him? He may have just hit a brick wall and been discovered very quickly. How much covering up, how much, backdoor shady deals and
kickback to the AI.
And kickbacks were happening for the CEO. Clearly he was benefiting, and like you said, Kurt, a lot of this will be about money. The music's irrelevant. It's about generating streams and revenue and income. And so I would hope without that insider help, he wouldn't have got very far. And I would imagine that most platforms, I know that most platforms want to try and guard against that kind of thing and protect the artists to an extent, because they don't just want a platform full of AI-generated noise. They want proper music made by proper people that's going to be listened to and have that ongoing fan base, which is going to snowball for each artist, which is going to benefit the DSP and so on and so forth. So AI is incredibly powerful, but like anything in life, it can be used for good or for ill. And I suppose from an artist point of view, we use it all the time anyway. I mean, it's embedded in your DAW. It's
right.
You know, you can have a mastering suite and you can have a plugin that does AI stuff for this, that, and everything else. So we shouldn't be afraid of embracing it as long as it's enhancing the artistic process rather than just pushing out faceless sort of anonymous star music. But it's just how we identify that and how the big platforms are protecting us as artists suffering as a result of AI generated nonsense.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it right now, just in a little bit of a sideways bent, which is sort of typically where I go anyway, isn't it? But the idea of I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of an executive at Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon Music. And if there is someone who's coming in to create a whole bunch of AI content, let me preface what I'm about to say. I think that there might actually be a defense of the human artist from the platform perspective. Like if we just pull art out of it, like let's just dismiss that part of the conversation. I could see a streaming platform executive want to defend the actual people, the actual artists, as opposed to the AI ones, because they know that the artists, the human artists, are the ones who are going to be sharing stuff out on social. They're going to be, uploading, they're pushing people to the platform. They're going to be engaging on a week in, week out, instead of this idea of how do I game this system so I can spike an algorithm that I think I've sniffed out and, try to just essentially manipulate everything into a way where I'm generating a bunch of streams. I could see a world where a streaming executive would actively try to, get those, not fake, but the generated artistry stuff out of there, because if it's all just kind of a revenue driven thing in the first place, there's only so much music that you can listen to, right? Even as the number continues to skyrocket, there's only so many humans with so many accounts on so many, across the planet. Even if that number grows a little bit or grows a lot of it, it's not going to grow at the same speed of the amount of stuff that goes out there. So if that number is kind of you can quantify, how many streams, and then by that way, how much revenue and all that stuff. You would probably want to just be really judicious with making sure that that money went as far as it could go. And then one of the ways I would do that as an executive would be to ensure that it gets into the hands of the people who are going to continue to feed back into the system. And so, I might be wrong on that. You can push back on me, but it just kind of struck me while you're all talking about that there might be something in the favor of the human artist from the sides of these platforms. So,
I think you're right. If you take Spotify as an example, the fact that they seem to be actively encouraging fan engagement with things like your artist wrapped at the end of the year. you're not going to be able to do that if you're an AI generated platform, are you? Unless you suppose you use some kind of deep fake technology to do the video, which I suppose is possible. But
super meta at this point. Yeah.
To your point, Mike, they do seem to want to have that engagement between listeners and artists, and are actively encouraging that. So I think there's definitely, and I would hope there would be that drive from all the similar big platforms.
Yeah, I feel like what you're saying, Mike, as far as the money getting back to the people who are making the things, not only who are making the things, but who are taking the things that they make into the world, and that creates an economy, a relationship, a community, all the words that we like. And the thing about the bots and the AI is that it enlarges one person's capacity outside of it makes your capacity so massive that it's unnatural. It creates this unnatural relationship into this world where if money is a part of that world, it kind of takes away from just the balance of how this works. And so that's where I feel like it has to come back to where if you have the capacity to make, 100 tracks with AI, and you connect with some A&R people who love your take on AI music and what you're doing with it, and they have people that are into AI music and want to hear what the new prompts and the new things and the new approaches, and they're like, yeah, people love this. This is great. More power to you. You found a way to take your imagination, make something with it, get it to a person who then gets it to other people. That's something. And I think that's not going to go away. But the moment you use one robot to make a thing and then put it on a platform that then plays it to another robot, now you have like these two robots listening to each other's thing. But money is now transitioning, not to the robots, but to the dude who's getting these robots to talk to each other. Yeah. That's different. That's the gaming of the system. Yeah. And that throws off the balance of, money, art, technology, and people in a way that I don't think it's sustainable or it's not helpful, Yeah. So I think that however you attack that to where the thing I'm generating, because people are going to generate stuff, and this spectrum, it's a spectrum of how much or how little I'm using this to do it, whether I'm using an AI mastering plugin or I'm using a complete one-stop everything. That's not going to go away. And it's not like I'm going to go to DistroKid and do my sliding fader of how much AI did you use to make this track? It's like you just have to figure out a way to shut down one robot playing music to another robot and this dude in the middle just making money. Because at that point, it's just a matter of scale, and then they can scale it to whatever they want. Like this 10 million, that's one dude. That's one dude, 10 million, 100,000 a month. You don't think that there's 50, 60, 100,
of course,
200 more people? He's
the
one guy who got caught. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it throws off the balance. It will stop kind of this, I guess, renaissance that happened once making music became way much cheaper and distributing music became way much cheaper. Sure. The renaissance of music that happened, and now the revenue is finally caught up to the renaissance, and now the bots want to kind of get in on the action.
Yeah.
Slice of the pie.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just need to wait for the day when artificial intelligence becomes sentient, and then those bots that are talking to each other will rat out on the guy and just
but as long as those bots, as long as those bots need to figure out what's the favorite kind of oil to use for their joints, and then this other bot that's an advertiser for oil will then start paying Spotify, and then that's like, okay, fine, you can get some advertising money because you're trying to sell these things to these sentient bots.
There you go. Spotify has become self-aware. Yeah. That's all really interesting. The journey continues as always. Love each of you guys, and not just your, the music you're creating, but your perspective on this. And it really is great to create art, to, contribute what each of us feel like we're supposed to be contributing in this world to it. Generative stuff. Each of us, we've talked a bazillion times about even using a preset or even, pulling up something that just makes your journey on getting ready for post-production, a little bit easier or something. Those are all stages of AI, even if it doesn't have the label AI. But, in that whole equation, I just hope that we keep creating stuff that just resonates with us, and that it doesn't become, this widget factory, and, let's try to gamify the whole system and just bake up these royalties that, illegitimate in the first place. And I'd rather do it the old fashioned way. and succeed that way. And it's like I tell my 7-year-old, my 9-year-old right now when they're playing Monopoly or Candyland or whatever, be like, guys, if you cheat, because I've caught them in a couple moments of like trying to, scoot their piece a little further along the map, or to, an extra $100 of rent for a particular thing. It's like, guys, if you win by cheating, it's just, there is no satisfaction in winning the way that you weren't supposed to in the first place. So anyway, from one dad to a bunch of other dads and everyone else out there. Grateful for you guys. Thanks for weighing in on this. Always a joy.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks for bringing this up.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the All Ambient podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you can catch every conversation we have with all these incredible people who share the same passion. I'm looking forward to the next time, and I hope you are too. Can't wait to see you then, and until then, have an incredible day. Here's hoping this music and the heart behind it makes your day and life that much better. We'll see you next time.